All right, let's get it. Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior coming your way on today's show, taking all of your questions and your best comments from our community tab because we're not going to do a live show this week. I'm actually going to New York for a wedding, so usually we do some of these mailbags now that we go live within our live shows, but since we're not going to be going live this week, we'll be back next week. Going to take your questions right now. Appreciate all of you who got those in on the community tab. So we kick it off with Spirit Hunter TV, very loyal subscriber here on Eagles Now. Appreciate it, my guy. Are the Eagles going to give Trey Sermon more snaps against the Cards, like what I saw during his limited time on the field last Sunday? I'm with you. And I think that what Trey Sermon brings to this offense is something that they don't necessarily have. Now, Miles Sanders, let's not let it be lost that he is third in the league in rushing yards behind Saquon Barkley as well as Nick Chubb. But he is not really that physical runner in that profile of Trey Sermon. And I think that's what Sermon brings to this offense. And I think a lot of people really like him and are intrigued by him because they saw what Jordan Howard did with this team a year ago. And back a couple of years ago when he was playing in Philadelphia under Doug Peterson, Trey Sermon isn't that physical, but he does have the physical profile. And Spirit Hunter, I'm with you. I like what I saw from Sermon against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That first carry that he got, 14, 15 yards off that read option. The defender kind of went toward Jalen Hurts, and that opened up a running lane for Sermon. I thought he looked good carrying the rock. So on some short yardage situations, yeah, maybe you can put Sermon on the field, but it really all comes down to how many running backs the Eagles want active on that game day roster, whether it's 3 or 4, and that decision certainly comes into play. With this game being discussed against the Arizona Cardinals, want to hear from you in the comment section right now. Who you got on Sunday? Will the Birds get their record to 5-0 for the third time in franchise history? PHI for the Birds, ARI for the Arizona Cardinals. Let me know right now down below. Ezra Blade next up on the docket. Is James Bradberry playing for an extension? Also, with Brandon Graham playing so well and Josh Sweat playing solidly, should the Eagles draft an edge rusher in the draft if they have a top 12 pick? If so, who would that player be that the Eagles would target? So, really good stuff here from Ezra. With James Bradberry, he's been a revelation. He has been so good for this team. And with the New York Giants, he was paid like a number 1 cornerback. I'm not sure he's that guy who's going to lock you down on an island, but as a number 2, he's probably one of, if not the best, number 2 cornerbacks in the NFL, next to Darius Slay, who is the top graded cornerback on one-on-one single coverage in the NFL. And because he locks down one side of the field, the offense doesn't always want to go to the side of Darius Slay. They're going to target James Bradberry or Avonte Maddox. The semblance of cornerbacks on this team, really, really good. I like Bradberry. I think he's earned himself some money, whether it's with this team or another team. Honestly, with how he's playing, different position because Patrick Robinson was a slot corner in that 2017 season. Similar signings, though, in terms of the impact. With Brandon Graham playing excellent football, Josh Sweat really good. Both of them have been very good at rushing the passer. I still think, though, that I wouldn't rule out taking an edge rusher because if you look at the Eagles roster right now, outside of Josh Sweat, they don't have like that young stud edge rusher. And right now, they would have a top 5 pick if the season were to end because of that trade with the New Orleans Saints. So if an edge rusher's on the board in the top 12, this is an organization that always prioritizes that position because it's one of the more important positions on the field. And I think they should go that route if the board falls their way and there is a good edge rusher there. If not, go to another position of need. Before we continue to keep it pacing in our mailbag, make sure you give me a follow, Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. If I didn't answer your questions during this mailbag, you can hit me up with the DM and give me a follow on those social media platforms. Now we go to Alexander Ford. Do we bring back Brandon Graham or do we find out whether he has any value to another team? Got to bring back Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham is an OG. Brandon Graham leaving, it wouldn't be to this level, but Brandon Graham leaving, given his cultural impact, what he's done for this organization, what he's accomplished with the Philadelphia Eagles, it would be an emotional, cultural blow, kind of like when Brian Dawkins went to the Denver Broncos. And this franchise they weren't able to make up for that for a really long time. Now, with Brandon Graham, it'd be a little bit different because he wasn't the player, didn't have the career of Brian Dawkins, who is a Hall of Famer. BG won't be, maybe for the Eagles Hall of Fame, but I'd like to see them bring him back. I want to see a guy like that end his career with this team. He said as much that he feels really good. He looks really good, so bring back BG. Man, he's been so awesome for this team after it looked as though he was going to be a bust. Everybody's saying, we took him over Earl Thomas. Who's still playing? Who's still contributing? And who went crazy? Yeah, you know the answer to that. Make sure you subscribe to Philadelphia Eagles Now. One, because we're giving you the most informative, entertaining Eagles content, videos basically every single day. But if you sub, that means that the Eagles going to continue to stack up dubs. The goal by the end of the football season, 50,000 subscribers. I think we can get there. I'm passionate about this channel like you are about this football team because I'm right in line with you. Hit that red subscribe button right now. Tariq Shell, do you think that the kicker signed this week is going to start if Elliot can't go due to his injury last week against Jacksonville? We'll see. So the kicker, Cameron Dicker, who was pretty good throughout his college career at Texas. He hit a monster kick in his freshman year in the biggest rivalry game of the season for Texas, the Red River rivalry against Oklahoma. At the expiration, was able to hit that game-winning field goal. He set the record for the most field goals connected on during a freshman campaign at Texas, and obviously they have a really good history with 18 of them. Here's the deal with Jake Elliott. He has an ankle injury. At least he missed practice on Wednesday as they listed it as an ankle injury. He didn't really expand on that injury. He said he's going to kind of be a game time decision. If he can play and suit up, he will be your kicker. If not, they'll elevate Cameron Dicker off the practice squad, and he will be your kicker for Sunday's game against Arizona. And can you imagine Dicker, the kicker in Philadelphia, all the memes, all the kind of witty social media posts that we'll see if he hits a big kick for this team? That would be so Philadelphia. Jay Green, over under, what do you got? 10 sacks for Hassan Reddick. Well, he's on pace to eclipse that mark so far. He is 2.5, and he leads the NFL in forced fumbles. Hassan Reddick has been awesome. I said it at the time when the Eagles made that signing. The value of bringing in a caliber of edge rusher of Hassan Reddick for $15 million per year, considering the importance that position holds in the NFL, and the need for it on the Eagles roster was just excellent value. How he do that, that's a Howie Roseman deal right there. I'm going over 10 sacks for Hassan Reddick if he continues to play like this, and he's been balling out the last 3 weeks. What do you think, though? Am I right? Am I wrong? You going over? You going under? O for over, U for under. Get those predictions in as far as how Reddick does this year. Dub G36. Who will we all re-sign or extend after these guys on their last or one-year deal? So you're asking, which players on the roster will the Eagles extend for their expiring contracts? So there are a couple of guys, obviously, that are of note to re-sign for this team. One guy who I think has fallen under the radar a little bit is TJ Edwards. I think he's a must to bring back and extend for a couple of reasons. The Eagles haven't had a linebacking core like this in a really long time. Kaiser White is second on the team in tackles, but TJ Edwards, he's rocking the green dot. He's the captain of this Eagles defense in terms of getting that play call from Jonathan Gannon and relaying it to his teammates. If there's an audible that happens defensively, he's the one who's calling it. And as a tackler, as a guy who has really good instincts, who has good athleticism, not great but good, but he makes up for it with his early dissection skills, I think that TJ Edwards has to be brought back. And this is a homegrown player who was like a fringe roster type at the start of his career, and now he's a solidified starting linebacker rocking that green dot. That's the guy, as I give you a name, that I want to see come back in the midnight green. And I think he's earned himself a pretty good payday. If you made it this far in our mailbag, we greatly appreciate all of the support. We greatly appreciate all of you for tuning in. Like I said, no live show this week. The Trace and Chase show will be back next week. That's also our next watch party. So next live show next week, we have a great unveil that we do want to relay to the homies, all thanks to your super chats. And then we'll be doing a watch party for that Cowboys game. But Real One Roll Call, let us know if you're tuned in and subscribed. We always appreciate it. Fly Eagles fly. E-A-G-L-E-S. You're all the best.